Thanks for starting your week with us. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Ijun in Seoul. Let's get started with a look at today's highlights. The Moon Jae-in government and the ruling party gets ready to make changes to the current tax system, including raising taxes on the super rich. The U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to hold rates steady during its policy meeting this week, with much attention on the Fed's future policy directions. These stories and more coming right up. With the government's supplementary budget bill finally approved, the next issue at hand is boosting tax revenues. During an economic policy-related meeting today, the government and the ruling party promised to resume tax reform talks again this Thursday. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
The government and the ruling party now have their eyes fixed on tax reform. Holding a two-way meeting on Monday, the two sides agreed to seek a broad change from the country's current conglomerate-focused economic strategy to President Moon's people-oriented and income-led growth strategy. They added that the execution of the supplementary budget bill, recently approved by the parliament over the weekend, would help lead the new economic policies to focus on raising household incomes, pumping out quality jobs, ensuring fair competition among businesses, and pursuing innovative growth, but only should it be executed at the right time. Also during the meeting, the two sides share their views on making changes to the current tax system, with the ruling party floor leader stressing the need to speed things up on its preparations.
An effective plan, including the normalization of corporation tax and tax hikes on the super rich, should be included in the upcoming tax reform, along with other options.
Framing the envisioned tax reform as a normalization of the corporate tax, Woo said the expected increase in tax rates for the top-earning individuals and businesses should come as soon as possible. On top of that, the government and the ruling party are also discussing potential revisions to the taxation of capital income, something they say will make the country's economy more effective. Such debate over the tax increase had been back in the spotlight last week amid concerns over the Moon administration not being able to finance the costly five-year policy agendas, which include creating new jobs in the public sector. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
And President Moon Jae-in is planning to meet with top business leaders this week to discuss various economic issues. From Thursday to Friday, the president will meet with the heads of 15 business groups, marking his first official meeting with them since taking office in mid-May. They're expected to exchange views on job creation and shared growth between large corporations and small and medium-sized businesses. The invited guests are the heads or top officials from the Korea's 14 largest conglomerates, including Samsung, Hyundai, and LG, along with food producer Otugi. Korea is looking to lay the groundwork to accommodate its ongoing shift in energy sources. The new Minister of Trade, Industry, and Energy, Baek Eun-kyu, said it would be short-sighted not to consider future market needs and the economic value of reducing the country's reliance on nuclear power. He emphasized how the global energy market is moving towards stable, renewable energy sources while moving away from fossil fuels. Baek also pledged to respond to Korea's FTA revisions under the principle of maximizing national interest, respond to China's THAAD retaliations, and create more quality jobs. Deliberations on the fate of two nuclear reactors in the southeastern city of Ulsan began moments ago, setting into motion a 3-month timeline that will decide whether to permanently shut the reactors down. The Shinggori 5 and 6 reactors were about 28% completed when their construction was halted temporarily, as President Moon Jae-in promised a bottom-up review of nuclear energy. A 9-member committee led by former Supreme Court Justice Kim Ji-hyung will consider the range of public opinion before arriving at a final decision by October. Minister of Government Policy Coordination Hong Nam-gi announced to committee members less than an hour ago, pledging an objective and transparent review of social consensus. To uphold neutrality, the committee does not include stakeholders or persons working in the energy sector. And moving on to markets, to tell us more about today's stock market action as well as upcoming market events this week, our markets contributor Lee Ji-hye from NPR joins us on the phone today. Hello, Ji-hye.
Hello, Jean.
All right, so give us a rundown on how the markets fared here in Seoul today.
Well, it did start on a lower note, and it was sluggish throughout the day, with investors taking a breather after the sharp gains seen last week, but ended slightly higher at the closing bell. The benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index rose 0.06% to 2,451.53, while the Kosdaq rose 0.11%. Finish at 677.32 points. The market's optimism did persist, especially after Korea's National Assembly approved the government's roughly $10 billion supplementary budget over the weekend. Market behemoth Samsung Electronics fell 0.43%. Samsung SDI lost 0.55%. Builders also traded bearish, with Hyundai Engineering and Construction decreasing to 0.72% and Hyundai Industrial gaining 0.11%. Instant food maker Otsugi outperformed the broader markets, with its shares jumping 7.25% after President Moon Jae-in invited the firms to high-level business talks. This company was the only non-conglomerate among the 14 business groups that were invited to attend the meeting to discuss diverse issues, including generating jobs.
What major market events do we have lined up for this week then?
Well, starting off on the first day of the week would be the U.S. Flash Composite Purchasing Managers Index on Monday local time, as well as the release of figures on existing home sales for June. The Federal Reserve meets on Tuesday for the two-day FOMC meeting in Washington, its last gathering of the summer. The U.S. is to release data on consumer confidence on Tuesday local time as well. And on Wednesday, the Fed is to announce its benchmark interest rates and publish a rate statement outlining economic conditions and the factors affecting the monetary policy decision. Data on jobless claims will also be released on Thursday. And finally, on Friday, the U.S. is to round up the week with advanced data on second quarter growth.
What are some predictions being made as an outcome from the FOMC this week?
Well, analysts, they're saying that the statement from this week is likely to indicate that policymakers are now ready to begin normalizing the central bank's balance sheet relatively soon. This will also likely solidify expectations for a September announcement. The Fed is also expected to make updates on conditions by saying that the economy continued to expand at a moderate pace and that the labor market is still strengthening. Despite these signs, inflation remains well below the Fed's target of 2%, which may continue to hamper the Fed's wiggle room in tightening policy over the next few months unless price growth starts picking up. Predictions include that the Fed will likely resume hiking rates in December after a September pause, but this will be a painful wait for investors. And while the market is predicting a 40% likelihood of a rate hike within this year, those odds have been steadily declining in recent months. This has been Lee Ji-hye for Business Daily.
U.S. Federal Reserve will hold its July policy meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday, with expectations that the central bank will hold interest rates steady. However, with the Fed still expected to hike rates in the coming months, the focus is now on key economic indicators that could have a significant bearing on the Fed's future policy direction. Our Yoo Jun-hee reports.
After a rate hike in June, there's a wide market consensus the Federal Reserve is likely to stand pat and make no major announcements at the end of its two-day FOMC meeting this week. The Fed is expected to take pause for several more months as it continues to monitor developments and progress in the U.S. economy. One issue of particular concern for the Fed is inflation, which continues to remain subdued and below its target goal of 2%. However, Fed Chair Janet Yellen remains confident that low inflation is transitory and a pickup in the economy will eventually support price growth.
Now, for several months running, we have seen unusually low inflation readings. As I mentioned, there appear to be some special factors that partly account for that.
The current week is also backlogged with several key economic data releases, including the first estimate on second quarter U.S. GDP growth due on Friday. Markets predict the U.S. economy expanded by 2.6% in the April to June period, fueled by an uptick in consumer spending and robust employment growth. Economists remain perplexed, however, by falling inflation despite solid job growth and low unemployment, which would usually be accompanied by growth in wages and prices. Minutes from the Fed's June meeting showed several members of its policy board were wary of the phenomenon and were, quote, not comfortable with the central bank's plan to raise interest rates again this year. Investors remain roughly split on the chances of a rate hike in December, although the odds have steadily eroded in recent months. All eyes will be on Yellen's speech on Wednesday on whether she will reaffirm the Fed's desire to normalize its monetary policy and provide any hints on the timeline of its actions. Yoo Jun-hee, Business Daily.
The International Monetary Fund maintained its growth forecast for the global economy this year and next year at 3.5% and 3.6%, respectively. In a Monday report, the IMF lowered its projection for the U.S. economy this year by 0.2 percentage points to 2.1%, citing lower first-quarter earnings and uncertainties stemming from its fiscal policies. At the same time, the IMF raised its projection for the Chinese economy this year by 0.1 percentage point to 6.7%, largely due to better-than-expected first-quarter earnings performance. Projections for the Korean economy was not included in the latest report. Preliminary survey results show Japan's manufacturing has slowed for a second straight month to its lowest level since last November. Japan's market flash manufacturing purchasing managers index fell to 52.2 in July from a seasonally adjusted final 52.4 in June. Although representing an 8-month low, the index has remained above the 50-point benchmark for 11 consecutive months. An economist who compiled the survey cited weaker demand from Southeast Asian markets as the cause behind stagnating export orders. Private sector economists have expressed confidence in Japan's economic outlook, although the country's inflation remains subdued. Could the Brazilian economy be turning a corner after its worst recession on record? As our Eunice Kim tells us, while growth is beginning to pick up, the trickle-down effect for job seekers still has some ways to go.
Data has shown that Brazil's economy grew 1% in the first 3 months of this year, pulling Latin America's largest economy away from a crippling 2 back-to-back years of recession. Job creation is also gaining traction, albeit apparently slowing. In the month of June, Brazil added a net 9,821 payroll jobs, well below expectations. This compared to the 34,000 jobs added in May and nearly 60,000 jobs in April. For the estimated 51 million young people in Brazil, finding a job remains tough.
I've been unemployed for 8 months. I'm looking for a job on job search sites and here in unemployment offices. Also trying to do a course at a technical school which has a spot, but it's difficult to get.
Hardly anyone is getting much work. It's difficult. From my group, very little got anything. Most are unemployed at the moment.
Embattled Brazilian President Michel Temer signed landmark labor reforms earlier this month, which his labor minister projected would generate some 2 million jobs over 2 years, by way of new contract regulations on part-time, intermittent, and at-home employment.
If we look a little more towards a future that has contemplated these reforms, then that economic environment has to follow that line for us to have a positive effect for the labor market.
Will the reforms be strong enough to overcome existing structural challenges and political risks that remain in the picture? Many will watch on to see whether the rise up from negative growth is here to stay or simply a brief relief. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
Domestic sales have accounted for 10% of Samsung Electronics' total revenues over the past 3 years, but its taxes paid to the local government has increased significantly in the same time period. According to a report released by the tech giant on Monday, out of the total of $180.8 billion it raked in last year, only $18 billion came from Korea, far less than what it earned from the Americas, Europe, and China. But in terms of tax payments, Samsung paid 67% of its total to the Korean government. Market watchers say this is due to Samsung Electronics being based here in Korea, leading to high tax payments, even though most of its earnings came from overseas. Domestic tax payments are likely to rise further owing to the company's record high earnings and a potential hike on corporate taxes. Korean automakers Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors outsold Toyota in Mexico for the first time ever during the first 6 months of this year. The Mexican Auto Industry Association says Hyundai and Kia sold more than 61,000 vehicles combined, up 53% from a year earlier. Toyota sales rose 12% to more than 51,000 cars during the same period. Kia sales in Mexico have been strong since the opening of its Mexico plant, and sales were boosted by robust sales of Hyundai's Accent subcompact, as well as Kia's Forte subcompact and Soul boxcar. With the Chinese market for all types of goods rapidly expanding, firms are using new marketing techniques to make sure their products stand out. Our Elliot Kim has more on those developments.
Here in a lab in Western China, Ford Motor Company has turned to a new strategy to make their cars more appealing to the Chinese and other Asian markets amid slow growth and fierce competition: the sense of smell. At the carmaker's Research and Development Center outside Nanjing, China, a team they call the Golden Noses tests the smells of the materials that go into the cars Ford sells in the region.
Our goal in the Chinese market is to reduce the smell in new vehicles as much as possible, as for sure new vehicles will smell of something. So our goal is to reduce that new car smell.
The smell test isn't unique, but it is a marked difference from how vehicles are distinguished in the rest of the world. While US and European drivers notably enjoy the so-called new car smell, consumers in the world's largest auto market apparently have a strong dislike for it.
Consumers in Europe and America care more about performance of vehicles, like engine performance, safety performance, and power. But Chinese consumers pay less attention to vehicles' functions and have higher standards on subjective senses, like touch and smell.
In China, a vehicle's smell can have a significant impact on its success in the market. A 2016 J.D. Power report showed unpleasant car smells topping the list of complaints among Chinese consumers, prompting Ford to create a team of 18 smell assessors who carry out 300 tests a year.
This technology is important when I'm choosing a vehicle. Not having that smell when you buy a new car. It's like when you buy a new house. It would not be comfortable to live if there's an odor after undergoing renovations.
Ford's approach comes at a time when the Chinese auto market is stalling, and automakers are looking for any edge they can get on their opponents. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
Along with rapid technological advancements, photography has become more accessible than ever before. Now, your cell phone, for instance, we carry around a camera and snap pictures wherever and whenever these days. However, it takes a little more than that to become a true professional shutterbug. And our Iji-won shows us how those in the industry continually adapt and find markets to offer something more extra special.
In a world where cameras are built into phones and pictures are becoming easier and cheaper to take, photo studios are adapting to changing trends, offering customers a different experience. This photo studio in Mapogu district is one. Its most popular product is a selfie profile, which gives customers a chance to take their own portraits.
I believe the studio has to change with the trends. Many people enjoy taking selfies, and while they may find it awkward to take a self-portrait in a studio at first, I think that it eventually results in a more natural photo of yourself and even a side of you that you hadn't noticed before.
Once talking with a customer about the type of portrait they want, the photographer adjusts the lighting and angle of the camera and creates the mood and atmosphere for the customer's natural side to come out.
손 같은 경우도 되게 중요해요. 몸은 다 됐는데 완벽히 다 됐어. 다 떨궜는데 손이 막 이래. 막 이렇게 되고 그럼 이거 불편하게 나온다. 그래서
Once everything is ready, the photographer draws the curtain and leaves the room, leaving the customer alone with the camera. After a customer has taken as many photos as he or she wants, the photographer sits down with them to select the 3 best shots. Through these self-profile photos, the photographer hopes to give the customer some unforgettable memories.
In here, you can do anything. You can be the model on a magazine cover or snap your candid looks. These photos are not for some formal job applications, they're meant for the customers. It's a very special experience for people to make memories and leave something of themselves.
Another unique type of studio are pet photography studios. With a growing number of Koreans raising pets these days, a studio that takes photos of these pets began to grow popular. From cats and dogs to even pigs and hedgehogs, pet owners can use these studios to have the prettiest photos of their pets taken. Chehana and her 4-year-old Maltese Perry have been coming to this studio every month for over 2 years.
I take photos of my dog Perry every day with my phone, but I still miss a lot of cute moments, and the pictures I take aren't perfect. So I come here to make as many special moments with Perry as possible.
For some people, taking photos of their pets at these studios may seem a little overboard. But to these owners, their pets are part of their family.
Pets have much shorter lifespans compared to people. And while people regularly have opportunities to take photos like at weddings or on their birthdays, pets don't have that. So many pet owners regularly come to take their pets' photos and even family photos with their pets.
And it's not just photo studios that reflect the latest trends. A special exhibition is being held at Seoul City Hall on one-person households. On the walls are pictures of people living by themselves and props they brought that best represent them or show themselves at home.
There are a growing number of people living by themselves, like we once did. But we felt that the society tends to pity those living by themselves, like they're lonely and depressed. But in fact, many of them fill their lives with fun activities and hobbies. So we wanted to share those stories of single-person households with people.
With a camera and sofa ready, visitors who drop by can take their single-person family photo as well.
Since I live alone, I eat and drink without a proper dining table. So I brought a small box and some alcohol with me. I registered for this event because I'm going to be getting married soon. So I thought it would be a nice memory of the freedom I'm enjoying while living alone.
Although photos may be continuously changing to follow the latest trend, photographers say the meaning and value each and every picture holds will never change.
이지원, Business Daily.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more business news that matters to you. Until then, goodbye.